Anyways, inside of me there are two wolves, one of which is a somewhat functioning member of society that goes to school, tries to improve in her art, and who rows. Here is old footage of me rowing in high school.
Baby man, little baby, little baby man, little baby, baby man, little baby man.
The other wolf does this. She also listens to an abnormal amount of Vocaloid. Foreshadowing is a narrative tool. On April 9th, yes, I have the dates noted, I was chipping away at my comic. I just put on a YouTube curated playlist to play me songs, and what pops up? A cover of the song Heat Abnormal. I had never heard of this song before, and when I listened to it, I thought it was okay. Teto jumping up a whole octave was unexpected. It didn't blow me away, but it was good enough for me to put it on loop and eventually decide, you know what, let's find some other covers of the song, let's listen to the original, let's see what it's about. And there are some good covers, let me say. And the thing that intrigued me about this song was what the song was about, and also the cover art and animations that go along with the song, because all the cover art and animations are usually based in red. My Sona is based in red, and this Teto art is really, really good. I doodled myself in Heat Abnormal Land, and then I doodled a digital version of it. It just so happens during this time, my final project for my art class was announced, and I thought it would be fun to try and expand this concept or this composition a bit more. The theme for the final project was create a narrative in an illustration or illustrations. I also started to listen to this cover on loop. So I did a more detailed concept of my idea in IBS Paint. I still call it IBS Paint. I know it's Ibis, but I still call it IBS. And I showed it to my amazing art professor who approved the concept. Thus, I started the sketch. So throughout all these pieces, there have been some compositional similarities. Some of the similarities include a device being held, the limited color palette, the wind, and the confused facial expression. After a few weeks of work, this was the final product. Originally, she was going to be standing in front of the sea again, like in the Ibis concept, but I forgot to sketch the sea, so fire. The song is about heat anyways. Some things I challenged myself with this piece was trying to use cheap art materials. I love me my iPad. I love me some expensive markers, and to be honest, sometimes to progress in art, you do need those materials. However, I think it's also important to utilize the cheaper materials around you as well. So I used my cheap liners, which I love so dearly, watercolor, and highlighter markers that very clearly dried up. I really like the Zand. I like the hair. I think the expression is too plain. It was watercolor based, so it kind of smudged, or I just didn't do it correctly. I don't think I actually used watercolor paper, so that's probably why it came out the way it did. And maybe I could have made the canvas a bit bigger. It's an 18 by 24. But the funny part about this piece is physically having it and looking at all the fucked up angles of it. Bitch is cursed. A critique I got on this that I really took to heart, because I'm not gonna lie, it kind of hurt me a bit, it was when my professor said that I could have used more colors. I won't lie, I was a bit actually at first. I went up to my professor after the class and I pointed out how, not like I was defending my art, but that the point of the piece was the limited palette. But then she explained to me that when a palette is purposefully limited, it means I really have to play into the complementary and contrasting colors that I do have within the piece. It wasn't purposeful, but the watercolors ended up making some purples and pinks and some dark reds that are a bit more cold, and they help contrast the piece a bit more and make certain parts pop out a bit more. Also utilizing less solid black and using more dark blues, purples, etc. I love using solid black in all of my art, but I could imply more depth and with different shades of blue that could then transition into that solid black. I knew a lot of this advice before. I just didn't think to myself I should include some colder colors when I was actively making the piece. I'm still learning as an artist. I can always learn. I think I've come far, but I could always do better. My professor drew my Sona. She drew my Sona. She drew me. She drew cartoon me. So I have done it digitally. I have done it traditionally multiple times. Let's do it digitally again. I then drew the composition in Procreate. In fact, this is the speed paint that's playing in the background right now. For this version, I wanted to change the composition a little bit, show a bit more of the expression. The pose is a little bit more tight in this one. All these compositions share the theme of really heavily playing into the light and not playing as much into the shadows. I love me some shadows, so having to prioritize the light challenged me a bit. I decided to use more blues and cold colors. I used my art cheats and simply multiplied the flat color layer and erased. I also tried to blend as little as possible. And for the background, I drew grass, kind of, and doves. I like this composition the most out of all these pieces. Honestly, I really like this coloring style to the point where I've tried to imitate it again with little success. So at this point, I've exhausted all mediums of art. I drew it digitally twice in 2 separate apps. I drew it traditionally multiple times. I think I'm satisfied. So fun fact about me, before I did anything digital, I used primarily alcohol markers for my coloring. This version, I wanted to use no solid black with the exception of the line art. I changed the composition again, and this is the final product. It is not my best, I will not lie. I like the pose, I like the blues and purples. I hate the eyes a lot. I tried doing the implied eyelash, that solid red with the other pieces, because the other pieces have that. I think it looks cool if it makes no anatomical sense. It didn't really work for this one though. This piece is mainly alcohol markers, but I gave myself permission to use a little bit of watercolor in the end just to get a more even and blended background. That didn't go well. Granted, I'm not really using watercolor paper, so really making the fibers of my paper cry. And that is that one. Now I've really exhausted all mediums of art for this composition, and I am good. I am good. I am satisfied. I need to move on and make other art. Why do I hear I won't lie, I have become obsessed with this song, and I need to move on.